Hi, I'm Mayor Christine Lotz, and this is In the World of Winooski. Today I'm joined by Ted Nelson, the city's assessor, to discuss the recently completed citywide reappraisal. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you for coming on to chat with us. You served as Winooski's assessor for many years. Could you tell us briefly what a city assessor is or does?
Yes, generally we go out and look at changes in the real estate and the properties. If someone gets a permit and puts an addition on or something to that effect. The last couple of years we've been much more busy because we had to update values. That has not been done since 2007. So we just completed or virtually completed a reappraisal for this year.
Yeah, and so
Excuse me.
We are doing this reappraisal because it's state mandated. Could you speak a little bit to why we had to do this in Winooski?
Yes, the market, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, has gone up tremendously. But if the real estate market goes up, and of course the grand list or the taxable values are frozen, excluding the changes, then the common level of assessment changes. It shrinks, goes down, or the coefficient of dispersion, the equity among the property owners and taxpayers increases. The inequities increase. So we have to go out and look at what's done, and then look at the market and come up with new schedules, lane schedules, and so forth to apply across the board.
Yeah, so essentially the state's collecting taxes from every town. I think that's primarily related to the statewide education fund. Want to make sure that everyone across Vermont is paying their fair share.
Yes, and they're equitably paying their fair share to the greatest extent possible. Yep.
So what is the average increase that Winooski homes have seen?
The primary single-family residentials have gone up almost double. Excuse me, citywide, we saw about an 84 or 85% increase. Some of the commercial properties that are in great demand, rental properties have also gone up quite a bit. The office spaces, though, on the other hand, they were hurt through COVID. People working remotely and this kind of thing. So there aren't that many of those in Winooski.
Yeah.
The majority of property is either single-family homes or rental properties, apartments and so forth. But those went up significantly.
It's interesting. Well, like you said, I think it's been 17 years since properties were assessed.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot has changed in that amount of time.
Yes.
You mentioned that we've nearly doubled. I'll just be clear, that does not mean that taxes are doubling. Can you tell us a little bit about how this reappraisal impacts tax bills? Yes,
I can touch on that. It's become, the property tax structure in Vermont is very complicated. Some people depend heavily on the payment, or what used to be called a prebate, which is now taken off of your tax bill before you receive it, and the state reimburses the city for the amount of payments they make to all of the individuals who qualify. So if you file your homestead declaration and your adjusted gross income is low enough, then you can get substantial reductions or help from the state through the payment. Some people through the last couple of weeks of talking with people and listening to their issues have brought in their tax bills, and some get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, maybe even more of relief. And so it's really important for everybody, but those folks in particular, to understand that when something doubles in value citywide, when all of the values go up, then the tax rate generally is about half of what it was the year before. So the closer you are to the citywide average, the less impact there is from a reappraisal on your direct property tax bill.
Yeah, so on town meeting day, voters approved a budget for the city with a roughly 8% increase. And so if your average, say your house went up 84%, you'll probably see that 8% increase. But if you're above or below that, it will be around there.
That's correct. Yep.
And when I say 8% increase, I mean over last year's bill,
Right.
not the new value, because as you said, because the values have gone up, the rate is actually going down to
Right.
adjust to that. We collect the same amount of money.
Yeah, what was approved for the budget is what, I mean, some people thought the city council, mayor and council will buy a new dump truck or a new fire truck, and they just don't have the authority. But it's unsettling when you first get your change notice.
Sure.
So the informals and even some of the formal grievances were an opportunity to help people understand that in some cases they may actually save money in their property tax, because they went up maybe 60% instead of 84%.
They might
So-
actually see a reduction.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, and you were mentioning prebate earlier. I just want to let folks know that is the Vermont Income Property Tax Credit. So if you receive that already, continue to fill that out. If you don't, you should look into it and see if you qualify. You can just Google Vermont Property Tax Credit to find the state website for that information. So we're talking about the municipal side. The education side, a little harder to predict. We're waiting for information from the state for those final numbers before we know what it will be in Winooski. I will share that the school budget that was approved on town meeting day was a 26% increase in expense. However, the state updated the education funding formula last year, and Winooski will be receiving more money now from the state that will offset a lot of that impact on individuals. Can you talk to us about how you determine property values through this process?
Certainly. We come up with schedules. A lot of people think, we go out and do a sales comparison analysis. Where's your comps? I want to see your comps. And that's a common reaction when their value is up. But we try to observe, at least on the exterior, if not the interior, if people allowed us in, the condition of the house, the quality of the house. We try to get the facts correct also, what's the size of the basement and the first floor and so forth. And so that when we have completed a project like this, we start with the facts. How big is the house? When was it built? And so forth. And then we go to, this is really original. It's 100 years old, and the kitchen cabinets are original, and the bathroom is maybe 50 years old, and so there's a significant amount of either wear and tear or deferred maintenance, and we try to reflect that. Conversely, if you go into the house where they look at your feet and you have to take your shoes off and there's plastic on the couches and everything like this, we know that the house has been well taken care of, and if someone permits us to walk through, we may find that there's less depreciation, if you will, wear and tear on a house like that. We also look at the utility of the house, the floor plan, and what's outside the house that may bring the value down. Once in a while you have, an impact on from the neighbor. They may encroach on your property or limit your ability to use your land or something like this. So we try to take those things into consideration. And if you will, to the best of our ability, bring it in at market value. Of course, most of us, myself included, you want to have the value really low when the tax assessor comes, and when you sell it, you want to get as much as you can. That's just simply human nature. But most people are honest, and most people really try to cooperate and be as honest as possible with what they have. And it's been a really interesting experience the last couple of years. Winooski's a great city, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to do this project.
That's so great to hear. Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome.
So it's sort of like size, function, condition.
Yes.
Which is interesting to think about. Yep. I might think my neighbor's home is just like mine, but inside it could be very different.
Absolutely. And the biggest challenge we have as we do this work is separating quality from condition. Qualities is generally material and craftsmanship or workmanship, and design, and then material, and then the condition, of course, is wear and tear and maintenance. And sometimes it's like left brain, right brain. Keeping those straight. When you're walking through a Queen Anne Victorian that's just falling apart, or conversely, pretty much a rectangular box that's brand new. You can have opposite ends of the spectrum on both.
Yeah, and I will share, so I have the city website pulled up here, winooskivt.gov. If you visit the current initiative section, you'll find the citywide reappraisal page. And a lot of this information is on here. We have an FAQ. There's also, I will point to this link here, where you can actually see the reappraisal booklet that has all the taxable properties and their assessed values. Folks can look at that to see how other houses compare.
Yes, it's been sorted by street, and most of the houses are numbered for 911 purposes, so you can tell, what your neighbors or friends or how they're valued. And there are booklets in the office if you're not necessarily tech savvy.
Yeah.
And there's staff who help. Paul has been great, and the staff has been really helpful through the process. But yeah, it's great. There's different options for people who want to see what happened.
Yeah, you can come into City Hall and pick up a book if you want. I think we were encouraging folks to look at that when they see their new value. You can see how similar homes compare.
Right.
But again, keeping in mind condition, wear and tear, things like that might be a variance.
Right.
What else should people know about their assessment?
That's a good question. One of the most interesting things to me is some people have had their property appraised or maybe even purchased it recently. And, we want to compare apples with apples. Our data value is April 1st. And so if they bought it last fall, for example, and it needed work, then we would do it as of April 1st. If the work is finished, then the value may be higher than what they paid. Likewise, if someone had it appraised a year or two ago and the market's gone up, since they had it appraised, the person who did the work may, she or he may be a very good appraiser, very competent and knowledgeable, and have pegged value at that time. But if it was 2 years ago, it could be stale or obsolete. They might be able to get updated. So some people were curious about where we started, the percent change. How did that impact them in terms of their tax bill, which we're all concerned about now in Vermont. But the thing that they should bear in mind is if they do have something done this summer or next fall to define the value, they can bring that in next spring. It doesn't have to all be done in 2024. If someone has pretty good information, they're suspicious that we may be high, but they don't have the facts, they might want to get it appraised or have a certified market analysis from a competent realtor who's knows the area, knows the market. Those things help us. The more specific and refined their opinion of value is, the easier it is for us to say, boy, that's a good point,
Yeah.
And it takes some of the emotion and the personal information out of it. We stick to the real estate. So.
Yeah, so everyone has a right to grieve if they wish every year.
Absolutely, they do.
Or if something changes on your home, if something bad happens and your condition goes down.
Yeah, it's remarkable to us. 3 or 4 people came in and we went over their information and they said, we don't have a swimming pool anymore. We filled it in. Well, they never called, and so they were paying taxes on an object that had a little bit of value, not a lot, but still, it should have been wiped out when they filled it in. And we're happy to verify that and make those adjustments as time goes.
Yeah, and if they pull a permit, right, and do work, once a year, I believe you come in and make updates based on those permits.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that until we do another reappraisal, the base will stay the way it is. So if the market continues to go up, we'll stay at the base we are until we're either forced to reappraise or the market corrects itself. And so they shouldn't feel like if we go by, we're going to put a new value based upon a new land schedule or something like this.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so the base stays the same.
That's correct.
And you add on whatever the new thing is at the old.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why there was such a jump, because we were using, in 2022 and 23, we were using 2007, land schedules and cost tables for
Yeah.
buildings. And so people might do a $75,000 project, and we'd come in at half of that, and they'd say, well, we're not going to say anything because they're low, but it's because that was the equitable thing to do. That's how you do it between reappraisals, excuse me.
Yeah, well, you just reminded me something I wanted to make sure people are aware too. You're working from that base, right? So that
Yes.
everything is sort of equitable across the city. Folks can, if they were going to grieve, they could bring you a certified appraisal, but the numbers you see, like a Zestimate on Zillow or something like that, it's not following the same methodology, so it's
That's
not
correct.
as reliable.
Yeah, the Trillia
Yeah.
and those kinds of things, Redfin, those are algorithms of how property is selling in your neighborhood. And they may give you an indication, but we've checked through the reappraisal, and quite often we're under what those indications are.
Yeah.
So, Winooski has a really diverse cross-section of real estate. We looked at one recently that was the land was 0.03 acres, 3/100 of an acre, which is 1,200 square feet. And there's houses with a bigger footprint than that in
Yeah.
the city. And that's tiny. And the house itself was 600 square feet, 586 square feet. And that's probably the smallest we have. And we have some substantial houses, some really nice houses that are substantial in size. And so it's important if you're out of sync with the neighborhood, especially if you're under, not to pay a lot of attention to Trillia or one of those, because they may be overinflating what is really not your value.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming in to chat with us,
You're
Ted.
welcome.
And
It's my pleasure.
for all the work you and the Vermont Appraisal Company have done. And thank you to residents and city staff for supporting through this process. Again, I'll remind folks that winooskivt.gov. Visit the initiatives page for the citywide reappraisal if you want to see more detail of what we've talked about here. And with that, I will close us out for this month. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.